All would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We've had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. Anybody have any questions about the minutes? Any additions or alterations?
Actually, sir, those are not ready yet for adoption, so if we could just get that in, we'll adopt both of them next time. With me being out that meeting, I'd like to look them over again.
Okay. Fiscal business, we have fiscal officer's report.
Correct. The board's received updated revenue and appropriation status reports, as well as a fund status report, and just to read into the record that we have $11,017,238.03 in our checking and investment accounts as of today.
Okay. We have had a chance to take a look at the current bills. Anybody have any questions about the current bills? No. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. And we have resolution 4811, 2016, Clearcreek Township permanent appropriations. Jack, anything in particular you want to point out about?
So I provide the supporting documents that back up the numbers that end up in the actual resolution you pass. Those are all the same as what we had for the temporary, so there's no additional items or new things. With the certificate we got, I updated some of the numbers, so that's really the exercise with the permanent, but nothing different than what you saw for your temporary.
Okay. Steve, you have any questions? I don't have any questions either. It's been good. It's the same. Linda, you have any questions? Okay, is there a motion to accept the permanent appropriation?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And we do have, executive session scheduled next. Do you want to do this now, or do you want to move it to the end?
Whatever you like. If we want to get these ballots around.
Yeah, why don't we move the executive session? Yeah, we'll move that to the end of the meeting, so everybody doesn't have to stick around for that. And move on to anything under unfinished business. Jack, you have anything?
No.
Okay, anybody else unfinished, guys? Okay, new business administration resolution 4813, a resolution authorizing the township administrator to renew the township's liability insurance and pay the premium costs. That's resolution 4813. So with that said, we have some people here that are going to talk to us about their insurance. And Jack, any particular order you want this to go in?
Well, so you have Pat Foley and Steve Simpkins who've repped for the Otarma coverage that I think the township's been with for I don't know how many years.
Since 2001.
Since 2001, and it's the Ohio Township liability insurance, a pool, and so Carrie Novacell is also here. The Ohio plan is another public entity pool that's used, and we didn't get anything together for last year, but she got some numbers together and went through our stuff. So I thought it might be a good idea to have them both talk about their plans in generalities. They're similar, but they do have some differences in the benefits. So I apologize, this has kind of come up short notice for them. So I don't know, Pat, you guys want to go ahead and go first as the incumbent? Is that preferred, or?
No, go ahead.
Ladies before.
Ladies first, all right.
I just, I mean,
If you'd like
If
to
you come up, just,
come
yeah.
up, and when you come up, state your name since we're recording this, if you would, who you represent, and then give us some highlights.
my name's Carrie Novacell. I represent the Ohio plan. I think in front of you, I gave you all some information. There's some member benefits. The 2014 financials, or 2015s, won't be ready until June, so. There's also some comparisons that you have. I figured I'd just kind of give you that information. There was a couple of different comparisons. One is one that shows the difference in limits for certain coverages. And then there's another one that kind of just spells out some key points that I thought were kind of focal points to talk about perhaps. On the, I'm not sure how you prefer to handle this, if you want to look at the proposal, know the coverages themselves. Y'all have been doing this a long time, the coverages are pretty much the same, there are some differences.
I think what we'd like you to do, if you're of the opinion there are some differences, I'd like you to tell us what those are.
Okay. If you refer to this sheet where it says Ohio Plan versus Otarma, the left-hand column are some items within the Otarma plan. The right-hand column, sorry, is the Ohio plan. I think the biggest things to note are the differences in liability forms. The Otarma form is a claims paid form, which means coverage is provided as long as you're a member of the plan. The Ohio plan is an occurrence-based form, which means coverage is provided for claims that are occurred while you're a member. So even if you leave the plan, you have coverage for claims that occurred during that period. So it's basically a permanent coverage. 60 days notice of cancellation is required on the Otarma plan if you decide you want to place coverage with another carrier. It's also required, as far as I know, 60 days to obtain optional coverages or quotes for optional coverages as well, or optional quotes. There is no notice on the Ohio plan side in either case. With Otarma, you're required to sign a contract. I think they call it the intergovernmental contract or something to that extent. There's no contract on the Ohio plan. There is an acknowledgement of membership, but it's not obliging you to remain as a member for the policy period. And that's actually a part of your policy, or a part of the proposal. I think it's on page 39 of your proposal. What else? I think one of the biggest things from an insurance standpoint for me is with Otarma, the board of directors, you agreed when you signed that contract to hold them harmless. And you agree to defend them using pool funds in the event of any kind of negligence, judgment, any kind of mistake. With the Ohio plan, they carry their own directors and officers liability as well as their own errors and omissions insurance because they fully expect to be held accountable by their members. What else? The cumulative reserve fund deficiency, if that were to run low, if their expenses have been too high, including claims, they can adjust those funds by coming back to the members and adjusting their annual budgetary contribution for subsequent years. What else?
And you don't do that?
We do not do that. You're never asked to pay anything more than what your quoted premium is, based on the exposures. There are exceptions, perhaps a large deletion or addition to exposures throughout the policy period. It would have to be pretty large to have that change or to have that addition or deletion. You know, a $2 million building, if you have a new building built for $2 million, worth $2 million, but closer to the beginning of the policy period, then they may make that assessment. It doesn't happen very often. And then one thing, the program is administered out of Michigan. I think it's Farming Hills. I think I have it mistyped as Kalamazoo. The Ohio plan is administered out of Toledo. We have our own risk managers as well as our own claims adjusters. We have risk managers we have a former police chief or fire chief as a risk manager, and they are experts in public entities. That's all they do. That's all we do. That's all I do. Other than that, those are to me the biggest differences I think that are most important. I think Otarma is a great program. They take good care of their clients. So I think there are differences. It just depends on what you guys think is probably most important within those differences. So.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
How many townships do you work with right now?
We have, I'd have to do the math in my head, we have a little over 800 members and 33% of them are townships.
Okay, so over 300 townships?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so about what is that, 25%, 30, 25, 30 for the
About
township.
33% of 800.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm bad at math in my head.
We're just thinking 25, well, there's 1,100 townships, that's
Yeah.
what. And then, what's the cost difference between your guys' plans?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think we have their cost
Oh,
yet.
okay.
We're not doing that.
Okay, because that's what I was wanting to know, because I'm going through and I always look at the bottom line, I can find it. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
That's the first thing you should look at, and then go backwards from there, as far as I'm concerned, so.
Thanks, Carrie.
No, absolutely. Anybody else have questions?
What, can you say the structure of the Ohio plan as far as the pooled concept, or what the structure is for the money and the, I don't know, the assets? Ed and I were talking about that. How are
Oh.
things paid out? What's the structure of the plan as a pool?
In the financials, on the 2014 annual report, I think it is page 10, lists all the assets and the liabilities. I'm not sure I understand your question exactly, but obviously, you know, we're not property owners or things like that, but we do have bonds and equities, premium receivables, that they're considered assets. We have a lot of reinsurance that kicks in.
Where does
and-
you know where your reinsurance is, for example, on a first-party liability claim? Do you know where your reinsurance kicks in?
The Ohio plan is only responsible for, I believe, on a liability claim, the first $50,000 of a $250,000 loss, and then reinsurers pick up everything over that. On property, they just negotiated new reinsurance contracts, so I'm not sure what those changes are. On property, to my knowledge, the Ohio plan is only responsible for the first 10% of the first $1 million.
So on
So out of $1 million claim, the Ohio plan is only responsible for the first 100,000, and everything else is.
statewide catastrophe property loss, so we have a tornado or a huge wind loss north to south
Mhm.
in Ohio. So does your company, Ohio plan stand for the 100,000 on each individual claim or on the occurrence, you know?
Are you asking if we share limits?
Now, I'm asking you, okay, if we have a claim here and there's one in the township south of us and one
Oh,
in the
yeah.
township south of that, do you have $100,000 on each one of those claims?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do. But it would take an awful lot of $100,000 claims to eat up the surplus.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And if you eat up the surplus, I think what you said before, then you will not assess the members.
Oh, absolutely not, never.
So when you eat up the surplus and you don't have enough cash to cover those extra numbers, where do you get your money?
Well, that would basically probably render the Ohio plan insolvent. Our reinsurers are still obligated by contract to pick up those claims, so in the event that were to happen, yes, that first 100,000 would be absorbed by the members.
And it would be a lot of 100,000s.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
How does your renewal process work? If it's a pool, or how does the pool kick in, or when you do, the renewal, what are you looking at, and are we put in with the group, or are we
Yeah, based
individual?
on our
or-
claims,
Yes.
our experience, and not
Absolutely.
everybody else's
Absolutely.
experience.
And with the Ohio plan, you don't share limits. Each entity has their own aggregate, has their own limits for each coverage. I think I did put that in on the comparison as well. But for every renewal, each individual entity is rated based on their own merits, on your exposures and on your loss history.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the right term here. If we had a claim past, not too distant past, where we were found guilty of violation of basically the Sunshine Law,
Mhm.
and we had to pay the other party's attorney fees, does your policy cover those attorney fees?
It depends. It depends on if
Do
the
you sell, let
lawsuit.
me ask you, do you sell coverage to provide that coverage?
We do, it's called, it's DEI coverage, or declarative, equitable, and injunctive. That's a non-monetary defense coverage. If a lawsuit is filed and they're not asking for any type of monetary damages, there's coverage for that up to $25,000. And if the lawsuit is filed and damages are being requested, it would be covered under the normal public officials liability, where defense costs, punitive damages, all of that are also covered.
So under your defense costs, you would cover the judgment against us for the other party's attorney fees?
If damages were requested in the suit, yes. If they weren't, then they would
In
not.
our case,
have.
they were.
Yeah.
Yep, they were?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. If damages were requested and not just impugned, then yes, they would be covered. In fact, I actually have that, I did ask that question to our claims manager, and I do have confirmation from him of that.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
That's a good question.
No, anything else?
Most of them. I don't have any more at this time.
Okay.
You know, I might tell you too that we'll hear from these guys, but I don't know that that I want to make a decision today, because I do want to look through this.
Oh, I didn't expect you to
We
make a
haven't had a
decision
chance
today.
to do that,
Absolutely.
but we do know that we're under a timeline too, so we'll do what we have to do to make a decision by the first of the month.
If for some reason you have to go past the first of the month, I've also been given authority to let you know we combine coverage through
And roll it back.
mid-April, and with a letter, no losses between April 1st and whatever date, we can certainly backdate coverage.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Guys, come on up.
Yeah, all right. Pat Foley's, Simpkins Foley Insurance, Franklin, Ohio. Do you need my address, or you good with that?
Okay.
We ought to find it.
So, okay. You know, a little short notice, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a proposal for you right now. We'll have something for you at the end of the week here, but,
Okay.
yeah, we did a little short notice there, so
Yeah.
you can understand that.
Well, the renewal's the first, but so you didn't have your renewal in yet.
Well, we just got the changes from Jack last Wednesday at 4 o'clock, so we've only had 3 days, and you know as well as I, that's tough to
No,
put,
you can't do it.
you know, everything together, and for us to have time as the agent
Yeah.
to look through it.
And work with the company.
Right, and so we do have something that came in, but again, we didn't have anything at 11:30 today for the agency to go through
Sure.
and, you know, make sure all the changes are accurate as
That's
well.
no
So
problem.
we'll have something to you on Friday.
Okay.
Make a
That's
decision.
excellent. And there again, hence being, we're not gonna make any decisions today.
Right, so, and I guess, before I start, I've got a little something here I was gonna read about, you know, the agency, and then Thomas Welsh is with us from Berman Flowers. Thomas is gonna talk a little bit about the plan that you currently have with Otarma. But I do have something, I know that, I thought this would be a subject here in terms of the Sunshine Law claim, and I do have a document that I would ask that, is it Carrie, that maybe you would research in terms of your policy language, because it does state here, and I just want to read, damages means money damages. However, damages does not include the following: fines, penalties, punitive or exemplary damages, injunctive relief, and it goes on. So I guess I would ask that they come back and do a little more research based on their policy language, making sure that statutory / punitive damages would be covered, because reading that,
Where's that? What's that out?
I believe this is, and this is out of their policy
Okay,
right here.
gotcha.
So you can take a look at that. Go ahead and speak up.
It does say attorney's fees in there as well.
Attorney's fees as well. Yeah, it does say that, as you can read through that. So
Okay.
I would just want to make sure that you do look at that we don't feel that any policy is going to cover the punitive damages that were put in place, including the attorney fees.
Difference between between punitive damage and attorney.
Even the statutory though, as well. And I know that Jack and I spent some time on Monday with Brad Tucker, who's the claims manager. And maybe he had explained to you know, that he had asked the question, and he explained, you know, the claim and the reasoning behind it. And I think what came out of that as well is that, you know, we do want to pay the claim. We do want to do that. They took this as to a council, you know, roundtable. How do we get this covered? Just wasn't any coverage.
Yeah.
So,
So you don't offer that coverage in any way?
do not.
Okay.
Just for clarification
And
purposes.
what's your name?
Thomas Welsh, Otarma. For clarification purposes, we do have the injunctive relief coverage
Sure.
that is built in for $50,000. That's what was, that is what was paid on the claim,
Right.
is the $50,000 injunctive relief for the non-monetary,
Okay.
which I believe Kerry was discussing with the $25,000 that they would have had.
Okay.
Simpkins Foley Insurance is a local independent insurance agency. It's been in business since 1972. We insure over 3,500 personal and business customers, most of them local residents of Warren, Butler, and Montgomery counties. We've represented the township's insurance since 2001 with the Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority, or OTARMA. Our years of experience with the township has given us an understanding of your community, including the township's various departments: road, fire, police, parks, and zoning. We've worked with most all of the staff over the years in one form or another. They know us, and we know them. We're proud supporters of our local communities, including schools, big brothers and big sisters in Clinton and Warren County, Rotary, and Clearcreek's Township's own Safety Town program. As mentioned earlier, our agency has renewed this policy since 2001 with an effective date of April 1st. And I was told just yesterday morning about today's 1 o'clock meeting, the trustees would be presented with a resolution allowing the administrator to sign with either company depending on lowest or best. I am certain lowest doesn't mean best. There's plenty of value in the OTARMA policy and the Simpkins Foley Insurance Agency. When I think about the best insurance program for your township, I would say OTARMA. There's 1,308 townships in the state of Ohio. OTARMA insures nearly 1,000 of those, 994 to be exact. Best can be described as successfully insuring 994 of the 1,308 townships in the state. Best can also be described as being insured with a financially sound insurance company like OTARMA. OTARMA has distributed excess reserve funds to all members the past 4 years. The total amount distributed for each member has been over $1 million for each year. So as I said earlier, I don't have a proposal for you today. You'll have something on Friday. I'd like to have Thomas come up, talk about the program.
Thomas Welsh with Burnham and Flower Insurance Group, representing Otarma, 6500 Taylor Road, Black Lake, Ohio. First off, I appreciate the time today and appreciate your long commitment to the Otarma program, and we hope it's been a good relationship. I just wanted to touch on a few things. Obviously, it's extremely important for us to make sure we talk about the advantages of the program and to make sure you know how important it is to us to retain you as a member of the program. First off, there are always going to be significant structural differences between Otarma and any other program. It is different. It's a member-owned program. If you compare Otarma to the Ohio plan, there's a huge self-insured retention that Otarma has that the Ohio plan does not. And it's a difference in philosophy, difference in structure. The Ohio plan does use many reinsurance carriers on, I believe it was a first dollar basis. I think it's a small percentage up to, like for example, on a property claim, 10% of the claim up to 100,000. So I think the reinsurance carriers are involved almost immediately. Whereas Otarma, even is reinsured on first level of reinsurance by a pool of pools. So it's not until after $3 million per occurrence that on a liability claim that Otarma is going to use that reinsurance. So it's a totally different model. And you, for example, if you have a $350,000 liability loss, Otarma's paying that. So it's a much more insulation for you as members from the ups and downs in the insurance market. So the goal of Otarma is that stability, predictability, and sustainability. The program's grown significantly over the last year. Membership's grown by 35 members just in 2015, and many of those members, 29 of them did come over from the Ohio plan. There was cost savings, those types of things. So it is continuing to grow, and it's in great shape financially. From a cost standpoint, rates have been extremely stable. Carrie mentioned something that I don't completely agree with about Otarma being able to assess the membership. That's simply not true.
I mean, you do not have the legal ability to assess?
We do not have the legal ability to assess the membership on a year-to-year basis, no. So.
On any basis? After 5 years or 10 years?
The only time the program could ever come back to membership for more funds is if the pool dissolved and except for claims and judgments, so administrative costs and those types of things. So an assessable program would be year to year, you know. So I think what Carrie was referencing is that the reserve fund, so Otarma has a budgetary fund and a reserve fund. If the reserve fund, if claims are in excess and we have to dip into the reserve fund, that would likely cause a rate increase next year. So we would come back to members and say, you know what, your rate's gonna go up 5%. That's never had to happen in the history of Otarma, where the whole pool has had to pay 5%. I know it happens in insurance, standard insurance all the time when a particular company is taking rate, as an example. So from Otarma's standpoint, we've never had to just do a pool-wide rate increase. I know Pat had mentioned the distribution. I went back and looked at, since 2008, Otarma has given back over $56,000 in pool surplus to Clearcreek Township. So that's your program working for you, for the bottom line. They also have a program called the Moore Grant that I'm not sure if you've used, but it allows Otarma to reimburse up to $500 a year for safety and those types of things, expenses like that. It's a reimbursement program. Obviously, cost is important, coverage is important. So there are going to be some stark differences between the two coverage forms, the coverage document itself. So, as an example, the Ohio plan is going to have likely a $12 million per occurrence limit, but there's going to be some sort of aggregate limit. Likely it's going to be $14 million. Not sure what their quote is, but Otarma doesn't have that limit. So there's no aggregate limit per year. So that's a huge advantage. I would never sit here and say that you're going to have two $12 million claims, but if you have a large one early on, you could be limited there for insurance. The other big one, in our opinion, is the guaranteed replacement cost that Otarma offers on the fire vehicles. Now, it is a difference between replacement cost and guaranteed replacement. The replacement cost that the Ohio plan would offer would be replacement up to that listed value on your document. Otarma is different than that. So you have about 15 emergency vehicles that are on replacement costs. So if something were to happen to one of those vehicles, it's a total loss, and you have a listed value of, let's say, $300,000, and it ends up costing to replace that vehicle $350,000, $400,000. Otarma is going to pay up to whatever it costs to replace. So that's a significant difference in our mind, coverage-wise. And I have some examples that just from other townships, and there's just a long list of examples here where, even Liberty Township in Butler County had one that was replaced for $300,000, and it was valued at $277,000. So there's an example of,
Well, I just wanna make sure I understand this. So if we have a 20-year-old ambulance that is totaled, and we buy a brand-new ambulance, you'll pay for the entire brand-new ambulance?
if the value is high enough on your schedule. So,
So I'm thinking like a chief kid here wants a brand-new ambulance. You put your rookie behind the wheel, wrecks it, and then we get a brand-new ambulance? That doesn't sound right.
I didn't hear that, is that in the minutes? So right now you have, I'm not sure what the Ohio plan would have quoted your limits, probably the same as ours, I'm guessing. So we had ours listed, I can give you an example of, I'll look briefly at your.
Could I could throw one out.
Okay.
Let's take one of my ambulances. It's 12 years old. It cost approximately $140,000 when we purchased it.
Yep.
But the brand new one, we're getting the same equitable ambulance is $230,000 today.
And we have it scheduled on the policy for the 120.
Right.
So, I'll give you, so in that example, if it's listed, if it's scheduled with replacement cost, if our underwriters and Otarma underwriters have looked at, does that qualify for the replacement cost? If the value's too low in the underwriter's opinion, they will, the most they will pay is the stated value, the stated amount. So you actually have, I'm sorry?
So you can't replace it, but you could buy it for brand new, 12 years previous.
You can, so
If we increase the coverage.
If you increase
on-
the
if
value,
we-
so-
If we increase the value up to the replacement cost and pay for that insurance.
Correct.
Then we could.
which is what it looks like over the years, there has been some adjustments because,
I don't think so.
no,
Yeah, we've adjusted some. Up to
So you-
Steve Simpkins, we've adjusted some of the values over the years.
So
With the
you've
industry.
raised the old ones up so you can keep that?
We've tried to stay there. You gotta look at it every year. It, you know, as the chief said, it increases a lot every year.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's no doubt they go up.
yeah. As an example here, your Pierce Arrow pumper 1994 is listed on the schedule for $250,000 replacement cost. My guess is that it probably wasn't purchased for that in 1994.
I wouldn't think it would be too far off from it, to be honest.
Okay,
And then actually, what would it take to replace it today?
Right around the half. No.
right. So
Okay. So that one probably wouldn't work, but there are cases in there that would work.
this one's at replacement cost now, so unfortunately, from our standpoint, if something did happen to that vehicle tomorrow, we'd be on the hook for $500,000.
Well,
Well,
let
that's
me,
not what you just said a minute ago.
If the value's up to what the underwriters have classified as replacement
So
cost,
you're
Oh, so
telling me
they're
that the
under-
underwriter is gonna say 250 is close enough to 500, we'll replace it at 500.
they don't know what it's gonna cost to replace until it has to be replaced. So that's why, in their mind now, the 250 is still qualifying them for the replacement cost.
Becomes a claims issue.
Whereas, I'll give you another example though, you have your ladder truck is listed at 531,000.
Okay,
Our underwriters have looked at that and said, that's not high enough. So now,
sure, that's true.
That's true, yeah.
that's the most that would be paid on that same scenario is the 531.
So that has a cap value for the policy of 531, where the Pierce Arrow has a replacement cost. I can get today's true value versus the purchase value.
Correct.
So we need,
And
we
the
need
idea,
to raise that other one up.
and the idea is to continue to look at these values and increase them as you go. So that way, you're closer to the true replacement cost. Because it will get to the point where these will be too low. And we'll have to move them all to stated amount coverage if we don't.
so the benefit I think that I'm hearing is you allow replacement costs to be listed, not just current value of something, that Otarma allows you to
Both
do that.
programs would offer the replacement cost listing, but the coverage valuation, the way the claim would be paid is different because of the policy wording. So the Ohio plan would allow you to bump up your value to a more appropriate replacement cost, but if a claim happens, the most that would be paid is that listed value. With our case, we bump it up to that same value, and we'll go over and above the listed value if need be.
As long
Does that
as
make
you
sense?
continue to adjust that replacement value and not just
Right.
leave it at the original price. Okay.
As long as the schedule indicates replacement cost coverage on our schedules, on our policy, you'll get the replacement cost coverage. If it indicates stated amount, that's the most that would be paid is stated amount, which is that listed value.
I think it's a little bit confusing, Tom, the way you're saying it, because if it shows, and you can show them the schedule right there that shows RC for replacement cost. So if that RC is on there, it's what it's gonna cost to buy a new one today.
Okay.
No, irregardless of what that
Irregardless
value
of
of this
the
is.
value.
Yeah,
When
it's
we
all-
come over and we meet, we didn't get to meet with Jack, sure, we come over and meet, we go through those, and we say, now, Jack, what do these values look like? Does this look like it'll replace it? And if we can move one of the stated amount vehicles up to replacement cost by adjusting that, then we do. If it's on their replacement cost already, it's covered at replacement cost. And Tom can show you the schedule.
That makes sense.
And that's adjusted each year?
We
It's
have to-
adjusted, yeah, it's adjusted as you adjust them, and, yeah, you work with your agent to adjust the values. So there was a couple, those are a couple coverage items I wanted to make sure were brought to your attention as well. I think if you really compare line by line, and I certainly won't do that right now, you'll see a lot of strengths with the OTARMA program. The program prides itself on its stability. It earns a AAA rating every year. So because of that retention, it has to prove to the membership and prospective members that it's financially sound, so
Who do
they
you get your rating from?
demo check. Yeah. So it's an independent, third-party rating company. Retention continues to be at 99% retention. Pat had touched on the strength in numbers of 994 members of the 1,308. And then from a service standpoint, we value, we obviously value your membership, and we're as available to you as we need to be. We have Pat and Steve right next door. So we hope that the relationship can continue, and we'll do what we can with getting the price to where it needs to be.
Very good. Steve, you got anything?
If I could say something real
Add?
quick,
Sure.
Tom.
Sure.
If I could deviate, more embarrassing, I think, put Pat on the spot here, because today's Pat's birthday.
Oh.
Wish him a happy birthday.
No fair. Mine was the 14th.
Well, it's important.
He's probably, Stevie's probably, what, is he, 44 or so?
Well, I'm sure he'd rather not be here.
41.
I'm sure he'd rather be
That's
something.
disgusting.
But
Good for you.
Pat's a great guy, and I can't tell you how tickled I am to have him in a business associate. He handles all the municipal accounts for us now. And Pat's your local agent. He's the best place you can be at. Pat's honest, integrity isn't the law. Don't have to embarrass him, embarrass myself. We really appreciate the fact that we have the township's insurance. We had it over the years. Pat really appreciates it. Being a trustee from a neighboring township probably means a lot to him, the fact that Clearcreek is here with him. And of course, he has a lot of friends here in the township as well. He's the local agent. We're not in Toledo. We're not in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're 3 miles down the road. We're here in Warren County. Two of the coverages that Tom talked about, I just want to touch briefly on. It's important today. Having no aggregate limit is important today. If Hulk Hogan can get a $25 million lawsuit, not having an aggregate is important. So when you look at the Ohio plans, you see an aggregate, that's the maximum per year. And when you burn that limit, you're outlining the insurance. That's one of the reasons we like OTARMA. We never have to worry about that. The other coverage is injunctive relief, and we've used that here in the township a lot. It's being used a lot across the country. And having $50,000 in injunctive relief coverage for attorney fees is big. We used it out in the storage building. We were surrounded those folks out there. We spent $50,000 in attorney fees. So injunctive relief is important. It's non-monetary damages. We got a big one going to Deerfield Township right now, where they disallowed a development down there, and it's just going on a lot. Really. So it's important, and having $50,000 limit there means a great deal. We're going to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm not going to tell you how old Pat is.
41.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, well, we look forward to getting Friday or Monday, whenever you can get it over here. Sooner is better, obviously, because we're running a little short on time. And when Jack gets that, you need to let us know so we can take a look at it. And we'll make some kind of decision here pretty quick. Thank you, Bill.
Not knowing what the renewal was and knowing we were pushing quickly, and I don't know that we'll have another meeting before the first. Brian and I talked about the structure of what the resolution could look like. So if you want to pass that and then we can do something, or if you want to get together again after you get the numbers,
Well, I
we
think
just
we're
don't
gonna
have a
get
set
together.
date.
We better get together again after we get the numbers.
Given how they said that,
We'll figure out.
You just gonna table it?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it a sample. Next weekend.
Oh, well, we'll make them. And if we don't tell you by the first, you're not gonna.
We're good.
I know.
Yeah.
And you are too.
And I'm gonna reiterate what Steve said. Pat's been great. No issues there. We scrubbed this whole thing last year, spent a lot of time going over all the coverages, so Pat's been fine. Claims haven't been an issue. I don't know that anybody has any complaints. I've also had the Ohio plan in the past and same experience. They're both very good options. So I would reiterate the same things, and Pat, I've had no issues whatsoever. It's all been very responsive.
Okay. All right, unless you all have anything else about this portion of the agenda, we're gonna move on.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moves on. Anything else under new business administration, Jack?
I'm sorry, repeat?
Anything else on new business administration?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Wade, don't we need to table 4813?
Do we need to do that? I don't think we need to. I think we just about have.
Really? Mr. Stickler's gonna let us just do our. So are we gonna rename all the other ones? I mean, what do you want us to do?
I'd leave, me personally, I'd leave them the way they are and just keep 4813 for when you bring it back up. But if
Okay,
that,
we
if
don't have to
that
table
causes
it.
a problem, then change the number. Or if you want to table it that way,
I'm
that
good
keeps
with
the number, up to you guys.
Oh, well, if table is clear.
Legal counsel has suggested that we do that, so I'm fine with that.
Let's go ahead and have a motion to table 4813.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Okay. That may maybe be cleaner, so we'll remember down the road.
But we'll just have to remember to pull it off the table next time, that's the only thing.
That's the
Police District, we have 4814, resolution accepting the donations from Sandy Stone.
Sandy's Tony has written a $400 check to the Township Police Department to be applying for Safety Town this year. I asked the board to accept that donation and thank them.
Okay, a motion to accept the donation from Sandy.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second, sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And here is that resolution. There's Sandy's. And then we have a donation also from the Springboro Community Schools to the Police Department on resolution 4815. So a motion to accept this donation. So moved. Second.
Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And anything else, Chief? No. And from the Fire District, got a purchase recommendation for patient care equipment.
This is equipment we plan on purchasing. We're using our seatbelt fund money that comes to us from a grant to purchase the bulk of it, and then the rest would come out of our fire fund. And I'll send a PO to Mr. Soda to make that happen here in the next couple of days.
Okay. Is there a motion to make this purchase of patient care equipment? So moved. Second.
Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And we have a resignation recommendation for Brian Histon.
Unfortunately, we've lost another one to veteran.
Okay.
So,
So, a motion to accept Brian's resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Have to kick me on that, used to doing that.
You're doing fine.
Step increase for Eric Henry from step 1 to step 2. Motion to grant this step increase.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Beerspaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Anything else, Chief?
Yes, sir.
We have the zoning department.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing well. At the last meeting, we offered to appoint, and now I need these individuals to be appointed so that they can perform duties in April. And they'll come back in the first meeting in April to be sworn in.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint Don Hinkle as a full member to the term expiring March 31st of 2021. Motion to that effect. So moved. Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. And we have Ryan Ziering, alternate member. Term expires March 31st of 2018. Is there a motion to appoint Ryan Ziering? So moved. Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Okay. And appointment recommendations of Angela Brown for the alternate member of the zoning board of appeals for the term that expires November 30th, 2018. Motion to appoint. So moved. Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Road Department, Resolution 4816.
Yes, sir, this is what we talked about briefly a few meetings back, so that the winner of the bid for the resurfacing contract can just bid us instead of having to go through the county per their auditor's request, and this resolution will allow us to do that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Scott, about 4816? Is there a motion to approve 4816? So moved. Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. And we have a recommendation to hire seasonal personnel, Tyler Kaplan, start on April 4th. This is his couple of years?
Third, I
I
think
think
it's
it's
his third.
third.
He's the only one we have coming back, and we've only got one application so far,
Oh,
so.
that's not good.
No, so we're
Hmm.
gonna have to start asking around.
Wow. Everybody else has graduated from college and moving on, I guess?
Well, and I'd say all Tyler's buddies are married and got kids and family now. He's been back quite a few years, and typically that's how we get most of our rehires, is you get the kids right out of high school and then they get a couple buddies and then they talk, and it just is a process that keeps going. And we haven't had a group out there, in a few years that have, stayed long enough. They stay a year or two and then they go and get a job shadow somewhere further, what they're going to school for, and we just haven't had the turnover to stay the same like we used to, so.
Gosh, I don't know anybody. I wish I did.
Everybody that asks is 16 or 17, they have to be
Yeah.
18, so we missed on a lot for that, but we tell them to come back, when they're older, so hopefully we'll get a bunch here in a year or two.
Is it still $10 an hour starting out?
I think it's 9.
Oh, God, that hurts. 22-year-old and it's $9 an hour.
Well, I guess we just have to keep our ears open for this, get some out that way. Did we vote on?
Not yet, sir.
There's a motion to hire Tyler as a seasonal employee. So moved. Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Anything else, Scott?
No.
Okay. Anything under staff updates or comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Then if we go back to resolution 4812, a resolution to authorize executive session, recess this meeting, and go into executive session. So moved. Second?
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. We shall return.
Mr. Wade?